Hi. We're going to come together, have a town hall tonight. General rule of order for the town hall is one person talking at a time. We do have Spicer here, and we have the drain commissioner here, and I thought I saw somebody else walk in, but they'll be able to better answer certain questions that you guys may have. Our topic of discussion, more than anything tonight, is South Linwood Beach. It has its problems, and they're major. It's a drainage issue, number one, and the drainage issue is now leading to a road issue. So I'd like to see the drainage issue get fixed before it gets too bad. In our last township meeting, we called this meeting because more than 18 people were there and they had questions and we had no answers. There is to be on our next agenda, I believe, about the engineering, Mark, right?
Yeah.
You guys are working on
the proposal to that. You guys, I think you're going to discuss it and decide what you're going to do.
Okay. Yeah. We'll find out what it's going to cost. So that brings us to this point. And there's a family sitting here that has a bathtub in their garage. And I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being real, because I went down there and I've seen where the water is all the way into their garage. And I don't know, if I lived on that road, I'd probably get upset. Just like all the rest of you, when you get done cleaning your car. I talked to some people on South Beach yesterday. And you clean your car and then you got to drive through a big mud puddle to get home. And it's a pretty major issue. So we have a board meeting a week from today. And I believe this will also be on that agenda. Because we'll have better information as to, there was supposed to be, I don't know, it was supposed to be $47,000, and the piece of paper that was in front of me said for sewer. This is not sewer. And I would not vote yes on anything that says sewer when I know this is a storm drain that we need. Last week. But the problem is, what will it take to get this done? And I'm sure that's where Spicer, the drain commissioner, if you guys would introduce yourself to everybody, you'll save me the...
I'm Mike McBride, I'm the Linwood County Drain Commissioner, and any questions on the drainage that I can answer, I will tonight for you. And if I can't, I'm going to turn it over to Spicer's, and they're going to tell you how they can possibly help you.
Yep, Nick Serwinski. I oversee the stormwater design group and the Saginaw office of Spicer.
I'm Mark Norton. I'm with the municipal group in Spicer and been working with Truck Holland Township for quite a few years now.
Thank you very much. I have spoken to the drain commissioner about this because one of the problems in some of the phone calls that I've had with others, it's been stated one of our problems is Tobago Marsh. And you know, when the marsh waters get high, there's a low spot, and that low spot just happens to be right at their property. And different conversations that I've had, some say we may be able to get away with a gravity system, but if we can't, we would have to put in a pump house. for that specific, you know, and then that's where the drain commission comes in, because we'd be pumping water to the other side, or down the road, and then it would get to where Tobico Marsh's overflow is, and then it goes under the road to the pump house, right?
Eventually.
I know I said it real simplistically.
It's, Tobico Marsh has an overflow that runs out into the head drain, and then it's pumped out of that into the bay. We've had a few problems with it before, and most of the problems in the Tobico Marsh that we've had problems with are beaver. Plugging up, and we have to go in and take the beaver out. DNR and Eagle basically are sometimes a little difficult to deal with, to be able to get in there and get it done as quick as we can. But we are able to get in there and handle those situations. Eventually, though, it doesn't help the people on Linwood Beach Road, because when the water comes up, it just comes up. There's nothing they can do about it right now.
Yeah, and when I was down there last week, we have actually, I noticed 3 spots, not 1 spot. Theirs is the worst spot, because it just goes all the way across the road, right to the garage door. When you first go down the road, it's approximately, I think, the 835 area, where it'll go from one side to the other now, and then right around 855, which really surprised me, because I did not realize those other 2 spots were having such a problem. But once you get past those 3 floodouts, you're pretty much okay. It's just to come up with a way to handle that.
So I would like to ask a question, if I could. I'm not sure which of you from Spicer would be the better to answer this. Since you started looking at this project, how many different options have been considered? Because as far as a board, all that we've heard about is this, pump fix. So what are the other options that have been considered and the viability of those options?
Well, I guess we haven't really done anything yet, we had this letter agreement for your consideration. And with that, we would evaluate all the different options at that point.
The engineering proposal that you have on hand right now is to essentially hire an engineer to look at your problem and figure out what your options are and help you select the appropriate one. At this point, it's just a proposal to get that ball started, but until we have a contract, obviously, there hasn't really been any engineering work done at this point.
So is that a single-page proposal, or is it a multi-page proposal? Because I have not seen that as a board member. Okay, so it's not what was presented to us.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's a letter with Spicer at the top,
When was that generated?
February 1st.
Of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. And so now it's May. Okay, we as board members have never been provided that to actually have anything to consider. So I was just kind of curious about when that was actually generated.
Is that the proposal for $47,000?
It's 43,000.
Do you guys have an idea of where this amount of $750,000 came from then?
So, I mean, the 43,000 is our proposal for preliminary design, which means we're gonna go out, we're gonna survey it, understand where the elevations are, do some calculations to figure out how big of a pipe you need, look at all the existing utilities, figure out a proposed layout, come to that recommended option, get a cost estimate together that's based on actual feet of pipe and number of structures and, whatever needs to be had to resolve the flooding issue. There's been some discussions, do you have a gut feeling, a rough ballpark estimate, and, based on what you're looking at here, 750 is, a number that may come to with the construction of it. I mean, there's the engineering side of it, which kind of help you get that option identified. We had 43,000 in a proposal. There's other steps after that before you go to construction, but then there's the construction side of it. And as mentioned earlier, until we identify if you're going to be able to drain via gravity or if you need a pump station, that construction number can't really be determined because the addition or deletion of a pump station is a pretty big expense.
Okay. So that's kind of, at this point, kind of pie in the sky, right? Like, this is the
Best
upper
guess.
limits of the guess, or you're not even?
That's kind of lower limits.
Lower limits of the guess, okay. Because I had heard at one point that there was a $300,000 figure that had been bandied about. I was just
I
curious.
don't, yeah, I don't
You
think that
don't-
was from us recently.
Okay, all right. I just kind of wanted a little clarity on that, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question for you. So is that part of it, is that is the engineering as well, part of the 43,000, the engineer is gonna basically tell us what he believes or she believes is gonna work in that particular scenario? As far as, you got pump, you got gravity, you're doing whatever, is that engineered or is that through Spicers? I mean, is it?
Spicer is the engineer.
So you're the
You're
engineer?
the engineer.
Okay.
I mean, we're gonna survey it, prepare some drawings that show the existing conditions are out there so we understand where the low spots are, the way the water attempts to drain now. Prepare a proposed design on those drawings to show this is what size of pipe you need, this is where it should flow, this is the best way to build it. And then, do all the calculations to support how big it needs to be, and then come up with an estimate based on the drawing. So by the time we get that drawing, we have, this is how big, your pipe or your pump or whatever the recommended solution is. And based on how big it is, how many feet of pipe it is, how many catch basins it is, we can generate a cost estimate based on what we see a contractor typically charge for that type of work. We bid out lots of storm drain work. So we have lots of sample bids where we see that this size pipe costs us many dollars a foot, this size catch basin, on and on. And so at the, with the 43,000 gets you to where you have a 60-70% design, you have a cost estimate, and you have enough tools at hand to make a decision of whether or not you're gonna move forward with more than just a guess. Right now, all we have is a guess.
So technically, when you do this survey for for $43,000, we're talking about survey / elevation and where the utilities are, so we'll know.
It's a preliminary design, so it's a topographic survey, and then this survey is used to come up with what I would say, like I said, 60 or 70% set of design plans and cost estimate, and any other information that we can give you at that time. I mean, the next step beyond there would be to start coordinating with all the other utilities in the area, put together packages to solicit bids from contractors, kind of finish in the last 30% of the design, getting the final details and everything worked out, and then go into bid. That would kind of be like the complete engineering package from start to finish. Preliminary design gets you to a point where you know what the system looks like, you know where it's going to be, and you have a better guess at how much it's going to cost you, but it's not quite complete enough to actually build it yet. Yeah.
So let's say you do the elevation survey and you find out like this very south end of the street is high and pretty much dry. So what's the necessity of taking that drain all the way to the very end when we know that this is our low spot, this is our problem spot, from the intersection to just past here, it's about 100 yards to the south of the parcel, that's the problem right now. So,
I mean, that's a question of how many people do you want to serve. You're going to have a hard time.
well, actually, you end up serving all the people if you get rid of the lakes they got to drive through to get to their house.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, it's like part of the, we look at a drainage system, we look at like how many acres is it draining and where the water is going, what the land use is, and how long it takes the water to flow through the system. Those all come into play when sizing the storm sewer pipe. And so, when you get through it and you get your cost estimate and you get your design, if you look at it and you say, usually we kind of try to strive for a complete design that's providing a benefit to all residents involved that are, essentially going to help pay for it. But I mean, if we get past this preliminary design and, there's a desire of, let's eliminate some of the storm sewer at the upper end because it may not be needed as bad. We can take that out of the design and then you'll have a feeling from the cost estimate, strike a few line items out and, all right, is this last upper end of it worth this much to us or not? I mean, normally when we're designing storm sewer, we try to give access to everybody on the street to a catch basin or structure, so if people want to tie in a yard drain, if they got a low spot in their backyard, they have somewhere to hook it into. If they want to tie their sump pump into, they have somewhere to hook it into. So it's, in addition to the standing water that's sitting on your road, it's giving them the benefits of a drainage outlet, so somewhere that they can put in their own private drainage system to serve their own property and hook it into somewhere. Because if there's no sewer in front of your house, you can't drain your backyard if you got nowhere to send the water to. So that's kind of part of the idea is, normally when you're doing a drainage design for a road or subdivision, you're trying to give access to all the residents so that everybody can share equally in the benefits of having a stormwater outlet.
I'm going to interject a little bit here too. I heard you mention road problem also, and this program would also address future road work out there, and you do need drainage for road work. So you would have to consider that as you're going forward to not only get the drainage, to redo the road.
Yeah, many times when you're doing a storm sewer, we start looking at those existing utilities and, well, we got a gas main on this side and a water main on this side and the telephone cables are on this side and buried electric cables on that side, and so we got to figure out where we can squeeze a new pipe in. Sometimes it's in the middle of the road, sometimes it's not. We're going to cross the road multiple times to get the drainage to work. So, we're either repairing the road or replacing the road. If there's no room in the road right away outside of the pavement, it may be under a lane or down the middle of the road. It just, like that, those are all the things that we determine through the design process. Where's the room for it? How big does the pipe need to be? Where does it need to extend? Where does it need to tie into? What's the elevation of it? So that's kind of all the work that gets accomplished in the, this first phase here.
So my question would be for you, Mike. I know that there are kind of some relief valves built into the natural flow in this area. And my understanding is that there is one of those further down the bay, further down the beach. And that there was also I believe, private road that was built that kind of crosses one of those other relief valves. So based on your understanding, and I apologize if I'm asking you for more information than you have prepared, but this situation, is this the result from what you can tell of a low spot, or is this the result of an interruption in the natural flow? Do you have an idea?
Basically, from what I saw out there, this is my observation only, is you have a low spot that's been there for ages, and that the only way you're going to get it out of there is by filling for elevation or draining. There is no actual relief in there unless you're talking about the pump station on some of the county drains. And that pump station, I don't believe they could get to it without quite an expense. Probably two pumps, one pump to a lift station to get it out to there, because it's quite a ways down the road from where those low spots are. But that's all going to come back to the engineering on their elevations and how it comes out on paper before we can actually make a decision.
Okay.
I can speak to that a little bit too,
Okay.
if you don't mind, Mike.
Go ahead.
So that, I assisted Mark Baskett, the surveyor at the drain office. Him and I worked on doing a little bit of a mini study on this Tobico Marsh 3-4 years ago, I want to say. And that the way that that's supposed to naturally drain out is through state park. And so with the lakes and the movement of sand and everything, so I live out here. I live just down the road 5 minutes, so I'm very familiar with the area. But so like you go out to state park, and there's a sandbar that everybody sets up on for the beach. And then there's kind of the wet, swampy area behind the sandbar. And then there's Tobico Marsh. Everybody who's been in the state park knows exactly what I'm talking about. That wet, swampy area behind that sandbar, That's where the drainage for Tobico Marsh ends up. That sandbar is blocking off the drainage. The beach sandbar is blocking off the drainage. So that's what stops Tobico Marsh from draining,
Probably.
is sandbars in State Park, essentially. There's a lot of obstructions, beavers, trees. I mean, it's not like somebody built a house on top of the drainage. It's just naturally occurring things that are degrading the drainage over time. And